Good morning, everybody. So we're going to be kind of finishing up on talking about coral reefs. And so we're going back to that same gizmo we've done a couple of times because it was packed with different types of activities that you could look at and see how it would affect the coral reef. And so we're going to look at it one more time. And today when we finish it, we are going to do the 5 assessment questions at the end. So in your Google Classroom, you do have the coral reef gizmo, the abiotic factors, but we're doing activity C this time. So I'd broken it up into the different types of activities. So we're looking at activity C this time. So when you open it up, it's going to look like this. Sorry, I can't think what I'm trying to say. The prior knowledge questions probably look the same because they are. So you can write down the same prior knowledge questions. You'll probably have to go back to it to refresh your memory. And the warm-up questions are pretty much the same as well. And so just kind of refresh your memory on those. But activity C is going to be different. Remember to get to Gizmos, you have to go through the class link or the portal, and you have to click on Gizmos to open that up. Once you open Gizmos, then you should be able to just go into that, and it should still be in there, and you can go ahead and launch your Gizmos. And if you remember, this is, oops, it's going slow. Sorry, my other computer, my son sat on it and broke my screen, and I'm having to get my screen replaced already on it. So this is what that one looked like. And so when you, no, I hit the wrong button. Please stay. Okay. So when you go into it, again, these were pretty much the same thing. And so you're just looking at what's going to happen as you advance the years. So activity C, though, we're looking primarily at how human land use is going to affect the oceans and specifically the coral reef. And so it tells you that corals depend on ample sunlight. Ample means lots of sunlight, warm but not too hot or not too warm temperatures, clear water, and low levels of nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus. Too much of those can be bad. Algae and sponges, on the other hand, thrive in water that is higher in nutrients. So algae and sponges like more nutrients. Coral don't like too many nutrients. Logging, agriculture, and other human activities can add excess or extra nutrients and sediments, those small dirt particles, to the sea. So it wants you to look at how changes in land use is going to affect the artificial reefs. So first you start with the summary tab, which is this one. And it gives you all the other information that you need for the coral reef. And it says under normal conditions, so the way it starts, what is the sediment load, nutrient load, and water clarity. And so you're just looking for the sediment load. So you would list sediment, and you can abbreviate. SED is fine, whatever. 5 parts per 1,000. Nutrient, and just NUT is fine. 4 parts per 1,000. And I forgot what the last one I asked for was. Oh, water clarity. And so water clarity, you can just say WC 94%. So you would just put those in under normal conditions because that's what you're starting with. And then it tells you to predict, and you're predicting what's going to happen if there's logging. So logging removes vegetation that anchors the soil and prevents erosion. So if that removes something that anchors soil, think about what's going to happen if that's preventing erosion. What do you think that would do to your coral reef? So think through what we just talked about with sediments, nutrients, and water clarity. And if this removes the vegetation that anchors the soil and prevents erosion, what's going to happen to the sediments, nutrient load, and water clarity to be able to affect the water? So what's going to happen to the coral that doesn't like the nutrients? What's going to happen to the algae and sponges that do like the nutrients? So think about that to predict your answer. And then you'll go in and observe. So on the conditions tab, you would set logging to 50%. So you would come back to this one and you're going to land use, and you would set logging to 50%. And then you'd go to the select summary tab, and what is the sediment load, nutrient load, and water clarity. And so you'd go back and look at it that time. And so you're just going to see what that is at that point. Click advance year 10 times. What changes do you notice? And then on the data tab, so after 10 years, when you come over to the data tab, you're looking specifically for these species. So make sure that you have those species checked down here. Uncheck the ones that it doesn't want, but check the ones that it does want. And look to see what happened to those species. Okay, then you'll restart, set logging to 0, sewage to 50. So you'd come back here, set logging to 0, sewage to 50. And there we are. It tells you what the primary effect of dumping raw sewage into the water is. And you'd select the coral reef, advance 10 years, what changes. And then on data, you would select everything except for these two, because those are invasive species that you'll look at later. What is the increase in nutrients effect on the algae? How does it affect the two populations that eat algae, which are the parrotfish and the sea urchins? And then it says click restart. And there's a disease that kills off lots of the long-spined sea urchins. So to model that, you'll select disease, select and set the sea urchin infection rate to 100, and make sure that the sewage is still at 50. So for that last one, you're going to make sure that you select disease and sea urchin to 100, and make sure that your sewage is still set to 50. So you just have to go down and just flip back and forth between those two to make sure that this one's still 50, but you change the sea urchin disease rate to 100. And then where was that one? That one's down here. So click advance 10 years. What happens based on the results? What is the importance of those long-spined sea urchins? And then return to the original settings and restart. Okay. And so that's kind of how this one's going to work. That is the main point with this one. I think we ended up not doing the invasive species part of this one. I think I skipped that one altogether. So if you want to look, if you have time left today, really quickly, because I think there is one question about the invasive species. So if you want to check and see, although we did watch a video on that, but check and see how that affects what happens within the ecosystem, and just do 10 years and just check both of those to see what ends up happening. That would probably help you on the questions at the bottom. But remember, you can always go back and see in the Gizmo, if there's a question that you have, you can always go back up here and model that in the Gizmo if it helps you answer it. Okay, so that is the assignment for today. If there were any issues with the Ed puzzles from last week, remember that is my first time to try it too. So if there were any issues, I will try to take care of those in class. Since my computer broke, I could not get anything done over the weekend. I did take it in to get the screen repaired, but I'm kind of stuck until I can get that done. So, and I don't know how long that will take. So I will see y'all in class. I will see what I can get done to help y'all with any of that, and we will go from there. So have a great day, and I will see you soon.